the temple, we must know that it should be good. And I'm just going to come right out and say it. He did not allow unclean meats to be offered up in the temple. And this is what the enemy did. When they took over Jerusalem and desecrated the temple, they put up a statue of Zeus and offered up a pig on the altar. Now, if our bodies are the living temples of God, he tells us not to build false idols. And he tells us to do not eat unclean meat. And we do both. That's not where we're at today, so I'm going to keep moving. So, this temple that was created in heaven was made by Yahweh, and that which is in the earth is a copy of it. Verse 16 says, they shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun strike them, nor any heat, because the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne shall shepherd them and lead them to the fountains of water of life. And Elohim shall wipe away every tear from their eyes. Now, we're talking about what is going to happen in the earth that has already happened in heaven. And we have some who have overcome the earth to get there and say, hey, we were there in the earth, and now we see that we are here. And they are worshiping and bowing in praise to Yahweh. Let's go to chapter 4. That's chapter 7. And now, chapter 4 says this. Someone read verse 1, please. Read it through verse 5. Just keep going straight through verse 5. Make it 7, verse 7.
What chapter?
Chapter 4, verse 1 through 7.
After this, I looked and saw a door having been opened in the heaven, and the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I shall show you what has to take place after this. And immediately I came to be in the Spirit, saw a throne set in the heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he who sat there was like a jasper and a ruby stone in appearance. And there was a rainbow around the throne like an emerald in appearance. And around the throne were 24 thrones. And on the thrones I saw 24 elders sitting dressed in white robes. And they had crowns of gold on their heads. And out of the throne came lightnings and thunderings and voices. And 7 lamps of fire were burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of Elohim. And before the throne there was a sea of glass like a crystal. And in the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures covered with eyes in front and in back. And the first living creature was like a lion, and the second living creature like a calf. And the third living creature had a face like a man. And the fourth living creature was like a flying eagle.
Very interesting. These 4 creatures all have very significance in what we're looking at. Just know that this is part 1 of the crucifixion after. Had it not been for the crucifixion, this part would not be here. So this is part 1 because it can only happen after the Lamb has been slain. So this is immediate after Yahshua. These 4 creatures have also 4 wings. We see 1, a lion, 2, a calf, 3, a man's face and 4 eagle, all with 6 wings. The eagle will come into play shortly. In I think chapter 8, we'll see more of a definition of the eagle. And I'll tell you that the eagle is what speaks after the 3rd woe. You have 3 woes. Let me go there. You have 3 woes. After the 4th trumpet, there's an eagle that flies in the heavens, which is chapter 8, verse 13. It says, "And I looked and I heard an eagle in the midst of heaven crying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to those dwelling upon the earth because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the 3 messengers who are about to sound." Now, I like what Rabbi II said about the woe before. He said, woe, or watch out. Everybody in the earth. Basically, that's really what it is. Watch out, everybody on earth. Because the last 3 are the worst. So the first 4 of the trumpets, we will know. Especially when that 3rd one get here. You won't make no mistake about that one. And the 4th one is even more devastating. But when the 5th one comes, you really don't want to be in his company. Because actually, that one, as I told you before, is Lucifer. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you. But we'll see each of them, each of the trumpets, as we go. Now, this first one in chapter 4 says, "After this I looked and saw a door." What does the scripture say about no man comes before the Father except by me? So Yahshua is the door whereby man gets to the Father. So, the 24 elders could not get to the Father without him as the door. And his part wasn't completed until his death. No man. They were here, the 24 elders. Elders basically mean the older. These, in this instance, they are the fathers of the tribes, and each in part. Now, and I'll explain how it gets to be 24, because actually you have the 12 tribes who came out of Egypt, but then you also have the disciples that was with Yahshua. All right, and I'll explain a little more about that in just a moment. So, no man comes unto the Father except by me. And all those good scriptures that follow that, he is the door. And then, he also blows a trumpet. He's one of the messengers with the trumpet. So actually, I'll go ahead and tell you that one too. He is the 7th. He is the 7th of those messengers. I told you, the last 3 are the worst. The 5th one is the deceiver. He comes before Messiah to deceive that he is the Messiah. But he comes too early and he deceives. All right. I shall show you what has to take place after this. So in other words, he's given him a chronological look in what is going to take place in heaven and in earth. So he came to be in the spirit. So he was translated, the one that sat on the throne, verse 2. He tells us how he looked, like jasper, ruby, stone appearance, and there was a rainbow around the throne, like emerald in appearance. So right here, there's someone on the throne, and it's not naming who's on the throne. But it tells us there's a rainbow. The rainbow is a what? A sign. Where does it go? Back to Noah. So there's something about Noah that we need to keep in mind here, that it stretches all the way to the time Messiah comes. And around the throne is also 24 elders, dressed in white robes. And what else did they have? They had golden crowns on their head. And 7 lamps were before the throne. And which were the 7 spirits. Let me read it. And out of the throne came lightnings of fire, and burnings before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of Elohim. So these 7 spirits, as we spent a lot of time on, and I tell you, it's still very difficult to really just say, this is a definite. But all we can do is continue to reach for it, because there is a mystery to it, as the scripture says. But we also know that these 7 spirits are in the hand of who? Yahshua. They're also in his right hand. And what does the right hand represent? Power and authority. So these 7 spirits, something about these 7 spirits are receiving power and authority from the one that holds them. Why does he hold them? Because he's the master. Now, as I was describing the 4 creatures, we have the lion. There's a significant aspect to the lion. He is the king of the jungle. He rules. He has all weapons of destruction to make sure that he eats. But also, in this lion, I see the second coming of the master, or the high priest, the Kohen Gadol, the high priest of the tribe of Judah. He comes back as the Lion of Judah. This calf also represents something that is awaiting. And that is that there's going to be a red heifer born into the earth, which is also a sign of his return, a sign of the elders that will be in the earth to be cleansed once again. In the face, the third one was like the face of a man. Messiah, basically, he comes back as man to receive man into himself once again. So these 4 creatures, it says, and they were living and giving esteem and respect and thanks to him who was sitting on the throne, who lives forever and ever. Now, this forever and ever, the animals that was also there was also giving thanks and respect. The animals were never to be slaughtered for food, but because of sin, they too suffer. And do you think that maybe that because they are also waiting for the sons and daughters of this generation to be identified and to finally get into the land where the first fruit of peace will happen? Why? Because in the land, it will be the first recipient of no longer killing animals for food. So can you put yourself in the animal's place where they feel that every animal that's bigger than them get to eat them simply because they may be bigger and stronger? and those are the ones who are carnivores. But I can imagine them waiting, but seeing it here and seeing that they are also applauding, and all of heaven breaks out with praise. And seeing the animals here also worshiping the Father makes me feel that maybe they too are waiting for this to happen, because the first part, he shows up as one of them, a lamb. He didn't show up as a man slain. He showed up as an animal, the animal kingdom, and not the great king, because he's unclean. He died as an humble lamb.
Hallelujah.
The character of which we must become